There are several types of pedestrian crossings, and over time the nature of these crossings have changed to accommodate our forever changing, busier roads. All pedestrian crossings, regardless of type, have one common factor, and that is to allow pedestrians, and as you will learn, cyclists and horse riders, the safest means of being able to cross busy roads. As the driver, it is our responsibility to ensure we make ourselves aware of these crossings, therefore acting in the safest possible way around them. Let's start with the zebra crossing. It's what we call an uncontrolled crossing, as there are no traffic lights to direct our actions. You should be aware of the crossing by scanning the area around it in good time. We first notice it by its distinctive Belisha beacons. They're like amber goldfish balls that flash continuously. You'll also notice the zigzag markings, which are very important for the safety of the pedestrians. They mean we must not park within the zigzags or overtake the nearest stationary vehicle waiting at the crossing. We should also avoid stopping over the zebra markings so as to keep clear for its use. So if you're in traffic, ensure there's enough space beyond the zebra crossing to move into before you proceed. Make yourself aware of potential activity around crossings. Approaching them at safe and appropriate speeds will help you to make the correct decision. In this crossing, we see this pedestrian appears to look like they will use the crossing, only to change their mind. However, it's always best to wait unnecessarily than to carry on and have needed to have waited. Here we have another pedestrian approaching and a possibility that the crossing might be needed. Just by pausing momentarily will give us time to assess further. There are often pedestrian crossings which initially may not be as obvious due to the road layout. Therefore, you must ensure all warning signs are taken into account, such as this one, which will alert you and prepare you for the possible activity around the as yet unsighted crossing. In this particular area, we can see the raised shared road surfaces. These again are for the protection of pedestrians, and although as drivers not required to wait for the pedestrians on the raised road area, we should use discretion in safely allowing the pedestrians to cross. A pedestrian that is already on the road, it is best to give way in any case. Further ahead we can see the zebra crossing, an activity with pedestrian crossing from the right hand side. The island in the centre breaks the crossing up, and the further we can identify a developing situation, the easier it becomes to deal with. While slowing and giving time for the pedestrian to cross, we notice more pedestrians coming from the left. As discussed previously, other drivers should not overtake the closest waiting vehicle. Here's that very reason. We saw the pedestrian hesitate once starting to cross due to the overtaking vehicles. Imagine that had been a school child running across. Zebra crossings which are separated by an island should be used as two different crossings. So a pedestrian that's approaching from the left will be given way to normally, but we can proceed once they reach the centre island. If they're coming from the right and haven't yet reached the island, we can proceed unless they are too close. So for example, if they just stepped onto the crossing from the right hand side and they may be 10 or 12 strides away, we can judge to have the time to proceed. If they're just a couple of strides away, we would therefore be in a better situation to wait for them. As mentioned previously, zebras are controlled crossings. However, look out for examples of them becoming controlled by authorised personnel such as school crossing patrols or other traffic authoritarians. Pelican crossings are controlled by a traffic light system where pedestrians use the button to operate the signals. Identification of lights are important as drivers, and from a distance we may just see them as traffic lights. By planning ahead we can act upon them. Upon closer inspection we can identify the meaning of the crossing. The Pelican is a pedestrian light control crossing and is operated by the pedestrian pressing the button and having to look across the road to see the standing red man or the walking green. It also gives an audible beep. The sequence then changes from red to flashing amber before going back to green. We can proceed on flashing amber but only as long as the crossing is fully clear. Initially, the Puffin crossing appears to be no different to the Pelican, but there are one or two relevant and important differences. Puffin, meaning pedestrian, user-friendly, intelligent, gives great assistance to pedestrians who are poorly sighted or need more time to cross. First of all, the boxes for the user are next to the button, so the standing and walking figures are much easier to see. The sensors you see on top of the traffic lights know that they are on the crossing. So if, for example, you have someone who requires more time to cross the road, then the lights will hold on red until they are safely over to the other side of the road. Because the lights know that the pedestrian is safely across the road, unlike the Pelican crossing, there is no need for the flashing amber light. Therefore, we see the normal traffic light sequence. Toucan crossings operate in the same way as the Puffin and usually have the same sensors, apart from the symbols of a cyclist and a pedestrian together. The Equestrian crossings, or the Pegasus, are for horse riders and generally have wider crossing areas and can often have a higher supplementary button to press and operate for the horse rider. So there we have pedestrian crossings. Of course, it will always be important to look out for and anticipate pedestrians' actions away from crossings, and there are several signs for us to read about them, but also look for clues around the roads, such as potential blind spot areas, such as this. And of course, always be aware. And just to finish, test yourselves on the signs that you're likely to come across regarding pedestrians.